Welcome to this week's edition of the Wellness Show with Angela and Safiya. Please note that whatever we say is not intended to diagnose, treat or cure. If you are in doubt, do consult a healthcare practitioner before applying any change to your lifestyle.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome to this week's show.
Yes, inshallah, we've got something quite interesting for a lot of women to talk about today. We hope, inshallah, it's been a request and this is a subject that we also wanted to talk about. We hope we'll do justice to it.
Well, it's a big topic.
It's a big topic, so we'll probably get back to it.
I'm only going to say we're going to talk a little bit, as much as we can, like the surface, and then another show we'll delve deeper based on people's questions. We can do more.
Exactly.
But it's such a big topic to cover in just a bit of time.
So what are we going to talk about, Angela? Let's reveal the big reveal.
Our female hormones and how they affect us, especially for all middle-aged, I hate this word, but this is the reality, women who are nearing or have menopause.
Yes.
Which means no more periods.
Yeah.
Or coming to that stage. So let's get started.
Let's dig in. So we thought we like to do that, don't we? Kind of talk about our own personal experience first.
This is why we got started and become interested in the subject anyways, because of our own experiences, and wellness being, and nutrition being our subject that we love to talk about and study. It's very natural to try to figure out through our experiences what's going on.
Exactly. And we've also noticed, I know from our conversation, maybe you slightly less than me in terms of the symptoms you've had over the last few years and the symptoms I've had, but I've been really affected by the changing hormones, and especially in my training, but also just daily life. So we'll really sort of this is what motivated me to understand. We found some interesting books, didn't we? We tried to basically explore, because it's something that now people are generally more comfortable talking about. It's much more in the general lingo, and famous people are talking about it. I mean, actresses and athletes or whatever, they talk about how they're affected.
It's called the change in mainstream lingo.
Yeah, but it could be like a progression. I think this is the thing. One of the things that I found very supportive is to use positive language, and we will go into that. This is just kind of a bit of a introduction. We go into all sorts of direction, but we'll just unpick everything one after the other. Yeah. But there's a book I came across by a female doctor and who helps a lot of athletes, and she said that one of the things that's really, really important to do is to have positive language used when you talk about anything, obviously, but it's because it affects how you perceive things, but also it can increase your symptoms. Like actually yesterday, just as a matter of introduction, how much words impact you. Yesterday I was in the car and I was listening to Heritage Radio, and there was, I don't know who was talking, it was a recorded thing they were playing. A speaker, one of the motivational speakers that we have now, mashallah, was telling his story, and it was he was in school, and as teenagers they love to play pranks to their teachers, okay, and I can't remember why they chose that particular teacher, but maybe she was a bit of a strict teacher and they just wanted to have like an easy lesson with her. So they peppered students all along from the entrance of the school all the way into the stairs and then the top of in the classroom. And all they had to do was to tell her. So he greeted her and said, Miss so-and-so, can I help you carry your books? And she was, no, I'm okay. So please let me, because you don't really look good today. You look like you're a bit unwell. And she's like, no, I'm absolutely fine. Okay. Next one, she goes into the corridor, whatever, and they, like 3, 4, 5 times, oh, miss, are you okay? You don't look your normal self. Miss, are you look like a bit grey, and are you okay? Are you sure you're not coming down with something? And they kept, no, I'm fine. By the time she reached the classroom, after 4 or 5 times, she entered the classroom. She said, good morning, class. I'm not feeling too good today. So I think we're just going to have like and she changed her plan for the lesson, because she'd heard so much the last 5 minutes that she was unwell. She became convinced she was unwell. And this is just like a little anecdotal.
Psychology is important.
So important. So when you hear
how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to others.
Yeah. So when you hear, in some cultures, period are considered impure, something you have to stay away from.
Taboo.
You have to push, kind of isolate the woman.
But not in Islam.
No, absolutely not.
Though I must confess that some Muslims have been affected by those
influences,
that mindset. But if we want to go back to Islam, you can talk about these issues. Yes, if you're culturally grown up like as I have, that you don't talk about it. It doesn't exist. You hide it. To me, Islam was very refreshing. Then I met people who were also hiding it. So then I realized.
Yeah.
I think it influenced. Even Muslims have been influenced by these other ways of thinking.
Yeah. So, for instance, when a young girl hears that, you're impure, you need to stay away, you can't do this, you can't approach that, you can't touch this, you can't touch that. If she constantly hears this, how do you imagine this is going to make her feel during that time? Instead of look at other approaches, like in South America, in America, in Native Americans, for instance, they have the idea of the red tent, or the female tent, which was where all women who had like their period, they would gather and they would nurture each other, they would help each other, and it was a time of break, a time where they would refresh themselves and and be supported by other women in the community, because some of them, so they, compare that with hearing that you're so impure and you should not be approached. Completely
that's not Islam.
Different.
So in Islam,
Exactly.
when I heard that even the Prophet ﷺ would let Aisha, when she had her menses, to lie in her lap to prove to us that
you can be very, very
you're
close.
not dirty.
Yeah.
You're not dirty. You're just, Allah gave this to us.
You can share the same bed still. There's no
Because
difference.
in some cultures, having a period means that you're paying the sins of
That is the Christian view, especially Catholic.
Of your mother, Hawa, Eva, that she did this, so now we're paying for it. But in Islam, we don't have that. In Islam, this is just Allah's way of giving us time off. Women have an important role to play, and this is the time that we have off, and we don't even have to make up for the salamist. What a mercy from Allah. So we have to look at everything through Allah's mercy and not punishment. That's not a punishment.
Yeah.
Allah didn't create us for punishment. He created us and to worship Him. And when we have our menses, it's a time. Allah gave us this time off. Alhamdulillah.
Do I always say that, and that's something that was an absolute revelation when I started reading the Quran, when I was discovering Islam. If you open the Quran, we said last time or a couple of weeks ago how when you open the Quran, it feels like it's a treatise of psychology, politics, and everything. It's also, you've got basic biology. If you teach a child to read the Quran and learn and recite Quran, you expose them straight away about the basic biology of human beings. The menses, women shouldn't pray, they can't fast, they can, all of these things is amazing to have so naturally peppered, you know, birth, labor with Maryam alayhi salam.
Yeah.
Alayhi salam.
When Prophet Isa was born.
You know, it's absolutely amazing that we have such description virtually of what it feels to give birth.
Also though, to be fair, a lot of Muslims might not know what it's saying, because only if you're an Arab and you know Arabic, and even then if you haven't studied, the Arabic language is not number one anymore in the Muslims don't all know Arabic like in the past. As the Muslim communities would learn Arabic.
Yeah.
So to be fair, they wouldn't know they're reciting, even they're reciting Surah Maryam, they wouldn't know.
Yeah,
unless they're also reading translation, and if it's a good translation.
Yeah, definitely.
So we have those problems.
Yeah.
Aside from, even though they're being exposed to it, they don't know what they're reading.
Yeah, so that's why I think it's so important to be open. So there's another story. You know, we understand that there are different cultures and different sensibilities and sensitivities to different issues, but as we said, Islam has always been very open. Allah encourages us to be. The Prophet ﷺ has never been shy about talking about very intimate things. Aisha radiallahu anha has reported many hadith of her interaction with the Prophet ﷺ and her questions to him, and how even women's questions about when to end the period. When their periods ended, to be able to restart praying and fasting. There's some very descriptive hadith of what the women have to do to be able to be sure that it's all finished and they can have their ghusl. So we shouldn't be shy. But I have encountered a story, for instance, a young girl from the East. I shall not say specifically where, but where she had to hide from her brother and father that she was not fasting. She had to pretend. So already there's a deception going on, which is not right.
That's purely cultural.
So she had to pretend that she was fasting. She had to get up for Fajr, for Suhoor. She had to eat with them. She was not supposed to eat or drink during the day, at least not in front of them. So then she found, you could say, okay, potentially right, it's more out of respect, okay, fine. But then look at that. She goes to school and she obviously is allowed to eat and drink, so she goes and have her lunch break and drinks, and her brother sees her and he's absolutely fuming and shocked and angry. How can you break your fast?
Because he has no idea.
Because he has no idea. So the deception led to that terrible situation where she was accused of doing something haram. So we have to really think. I don't want to be offending anyone. I know we have different issues in the West. We're a lot more open now about these things, but Islam was always open.
Mm-hmm.
It's through the ages things have been made a bit more hidden, and it's very important. Now we are in some places. There's such segregation between men and women that men do not know women, even their own sisters, even their own mothers. And then they get married and they're shocked. And it misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you mean you've got pain in your stomach or whatever? My mother never had that. What do you think? She was just stoically trying to pretend it was not happening for some higher whatever principle, which has no place in Islam. Mm-hmm. On the contrary, we as men, you have to be very understanding, compassionate, and
well, it's been unfairly done also to men if they haven't been educated in this subject. It's not fair on them, and then you won't be surprised if they don't know, and then they react in ways that nobody likes. But if they didn't know, they didn't know, and it's not their fault. So, but now that we do know something, we need to take matters into our hands and start educating ourselves. Men need to know about these issues too, so they can support their daughters and wives.
So when we were preparing this show, you were telling me about your childhood because we were both born in the 70s, but very, very different backgrounds.
Very different.
But some of the things are a little bit similar in some ways in how maybe things were conveyed to us. So tell us, how did you get any information from your mom?
No, we weren't allowed to talk about it. I didn't even know, like when it's kind of like okay, when my sister first had her menses, she was 9, and we didn't know that anything about that stuff. So she saw what it was, blood, and we didn't know anything about it. And I was so upset with her. I was saying to her, what did you do to yourself? You're gonna get in big trouble now. And I was upset with her, and for a long time, I can't even remember how many years she would try to hide it. Whenever she would get blood on her clothes, she would wash it, because she was scared that if my mom saw this, she'd get a beating, because we didn't know what it was. We honestly didn't know what it was, and we were scared to bring it to our mom. And I learned about something like we lived in Canada at the time, and so in school they have like I forget what age, maybe around 10 or 11, they have a class to discuss it, and that's when
you were like, oh wow, that's what it is. My God, that's
yeah.
crazy.
And it was like crazy information. And soon after that, we went back to Greece, and I remember telling all my friends, oh guys, come on, did you guys know about this? I found out about this, and since I'm from Canada, I'm like the very cool kid in town.
You did your own little
giving them this information that nobody else was telling them about. And that's the fun part. The part that my sister didn't know and I didn't know what it was. That's pretty scary, because it led to so much fear and unnecessary
stress.
Worry. We didn't even know anything. We didn't know about what you use to protect your clothes. It was pretty hard. It was pretty sad. Now that I think about it, I would never want anybody to go through that.
It was my experience was very different. I was probably 11, 12, something like that, and I was in a scout camp, and it just happened there and there. But again, still, I knew what it was, because in scouts you have different ages, and we were all mixed up with older girls who were 13, 14, 15, so we would discuss these things. So I knew what it was. It was still pretty shocking, because we were standing in a kind of assembly, and I was like, oh no, what is this? It's like, and I had to run to the toilet, and they only had like this, an absorbent toilet paper. It was really horrible. And even then, I was embarrassed to ask the female leaders to help me. So, and even to tell my mom on the way back, it was my friend who was much more brash, and she would say, oh, by the way, Auntie, did you know what happened? And I was like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing. My mom, very matter-of-factly, she brought me to the bathroom, and she told me, this is what I have to use. This is for the night, this is for the day. That's it, sorted.
Yeah.
Everything else afterwards, to kind of discover other ways of keeping clean and stuff, maybe I learned, and other equipment I could use. I learned from my other friends and then everything. But nowadays, moms, we know, and dads, we talk about this here. We still use kind of flowery language, because we don't want to be too graphic. But do not believe that your children in this day and age, from a young age, having access to mobile phones, the internet, YouTube, friends and everything, do not know much, much more than you think.
And we have to discuss it with them, but we also have to know. So
the best way of just to find out what children know is to ask them questions. And if they ask you a question, oh, Mom, what's this? You say, well, what do you think it is? Rather than already straight away volunteering the answer you think they should have, either too much or not enough, too flowery, too childish, or too mature. Ask them. It's very useful. You say, so what do you think it is? And then they give you an answer. Well, I think it's this, whatever. So you gauge straight away the sort of what level of understanding they're at, and whether you can give a little bit extra information, or whether. So it was always 3 boys, 1 girl. Okay, imagine my 2 older boys. They went through my, very inquisitive. They went through my bathroom drawer, and one day I came in, and everything was just like open, and they're taking out of wrappers, and you have to. I was just like, okay, you can't ignore it. So
No, you do
you
talk
have to
about
say,
it.
so, oh, okay, can you come and tidy up your mess here? So they come and say, and do you know what this, and they just ask, actually, mature law, we've always been very open, and you know, he was probably 8 or something, and he did ask, what's this for, by the way? And I was like, well, once a month you've noticed I stop praying or I don't fast, it's because I don't have a baby in my tummy, and therefore there's blood coming out of my special place for babies, and it's all right, it's not an illness, you don't have to be worried, because sometimes, you know, okay, this is also something we need to disclose. When you go to the bathroom and you've got a lot coming out, you don't always manage to flush it all out. Imagine your child comes after and is like, oh, someone's been bleeding, you know, someone's ill. They really get very scared, because for them blood equates illness, injury, danger, death.
Because that's what I would tell my kids, don't disrupt me unless there's blood.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. So, and even it's a natural thing, isn't it? This is embedded in our body, in our brain, that if you see blood, or the body needs to repair, because it could lead to very serious things. So you have to kind of let them know what it is. Don't, you know, sugarcoat it with something, or is this, because what do they see? If they happen to see an ad about a pad, what do they use? Until now, they use blue dye to show the absorption in the pad. Since when it's been blue? So I think recently some brands have started using red as a color to show the absorption in the pad and their ads, and that's a great improvement. So you've got to tell them certain things. So I said, this is, but you've got nothing to worry about. It's a normal thing. It happens like a tap. It starts and it stops.
Yeah.
Naturally, you don't have to. And this is the same thing I told my daughter. So when it happened to her, obviously she had older cousins, she'd been exposed to it a lot, being the third child, you know, she really, when it happened, it was also gradual, she had some initial signs. So it was like a gradual thing. It was really done very smoothly. I had prepared her. She knew where to get whatever she needed. So.
And even though I know what I know now about Islam and everything, I still have a little bit of discomfort while we're having this conversation. I can't help it.
Yeah.
It's embedded in you, well, in my culture as I was growing up.
Yeah, of course. For me personally, here I would use maybe a different language in the radio, because I don't know who's really listening. I don't want to be upsetting anyone or saying something that might make them uncomfortable, or if there's a child next to them or something listening as well. But if we were just the two of us, or another sister or whatever, maybe that I knew a bit less even, I would be a lot more descriptive, because it's very important. And we'll have a look at this in sport as well, how much women struggle to be considered in their time of the months where they're not as performant as they are normally, because of the changing of hormones, and we'll go through the hormones.
And that's where everything comes from. Allah created us, and one of the things He created us is our hormones, and the hormones coming, like the hormones are different. They're not just about when you get your menses. It's not about when you stop your menses. It's also when you're eating, hormones play a role.
Yeah.
When you're stressed, hormones play a role. So hormones is a word that underscores, you know, certain elements in our body that perform certain.
Do you know when I
effects?
Did you find, like, when you study the more and more we do the studying about the like more in depth of all these different subjects, you realize how perfect the body is.
Yeah,
and like the
mashallah.
machine, Allah created it perfectly, but it can misfire, obviously. And this world is not perfect, we know that. Only the Akhirah Jannah will be perfect, we'll have to accept that. But in itself, how it's designed to work is absolutely
Well, no one
amazing,
can still not, human beings, even though we think we reach such a pinnacle in our civilization, they cannot make one hormone like close to the perfection that Allah created.
No.
Right? And how they work together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And how you have even a thyroid that produces hormones, that boosts hormones.
Yeah.
And another thing, just a little bracket talking about hormones, there's something we'll have to have a look at in the future soon, is vitamin D. It's not a vitamin, it's a
Hormone.
and we'll explain that, inshallah. That's also kind of, we like to pepper little, like, you know, our show with little things like this, like
But
for people
we
to
wanted to
research
talk about
and
our
explore.
experience, and we started talking about the beginning of our hormone journey, right? But right now we're going to be talking about the end of that. It's not the end of hormones, but the end of certain
The
hormones.
end of the reproductive
and it's normal
life.
also, just like the beginning is normal. That is normal, and there's nothing wrong with women when that cycle finishes. It's a new time. It's like a next phase that Allah created for us. We have to remember that.
Yeah, but to transition nicely, we'll just have a break, and we'll continue on hormones in a couple of minutes, in a few minutes, inshallah.
All right. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum.
And we're back from our break. Assalamu alaikum, Safiya.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we have to move on now. We were talking about childhood menses and how we came about them, and how we dealt with it, how it was introduced to us. So assuming, okay, then you go through what? So it started about 10, let's say roughly 10, then until the age of 45 roughly. Let's assume it's a normal, regular period you have every 28, 30 days roughly. This is the average, it's like 30 days, 32 days women have. So some have less, some have more days in between period. So we're not going to talk about the situations where you know a woman doesn't have period, it's irregular, it's too heavy, it's very light, and
Well, this
you know all
topic
of
is
this. So
very
let's talk
deep.
about
We're just
standard,
talking regular,
standard situations. So I think before, shall we talk about exactly the different hormones that are at play through our monthly cycles? And we have our sheets here because we don't want to make it too complicated, okay? But when you have you know, in between you've had your period, okay? Then that's the first day of your period, the first day of your cycle. Okay, so that's when you start counting number 1. Period can last for about 7, 8. In Islam we say roughly 10 days, and then after that it's just extra, and you can start, some people you can start praying, others say you can wait a bit longer. So that's up to you to look and decide what you want to do according to your understanding and what you're comfortable doing. But you have different hormones that
are behind
that
this.
are at play. So
what's happening?
Yeah.
All right. It's not like you decide.
Yeah. So basically, about sort of midpoint, 12-ish days into your cycle, you have a boost of estrogen, and estrogen is what builds up.
And that's a hormone that we always hear about.
Yes, it builds up the womb lining. For and also it has a play into the release of the egg and etc.
Estrogen is the hormone that makes you a woman.
Yes, exactly. So when this happens, you've got a surge of that hormone, and then through third, fourth week, then you have a third week, you have a surge in progesterone that comes as well to help with the womb lining, if in case the egg is fertilized and it can attach somewhere and gets healthy and develop into an embryo and then a baby. So,
and if that doesn't happen, you get your period.
And if this doesn't happen, those two hormones drop on the fourth week,
which is estrogen.
Yeah, estrogen and progesterone drop.
Yeah.
And then you get your period.
So that's basically the rough idea of the cycle.
Yeah, it's kind of a, that's it, cleans everything that is not needed, so the cycle can then restart. And so it's quite interesting because you think, okay, it's just to build the womb lining and the egg, release the egg, etc. But actually, we've come to realize that it affects a lot in your body. It affects your mood. They affect your mood. They affect how you feel in your body.
Yeah.
They affect your energy level. They affect how you sleep.
It affects your health, like you.
And then that's when you realize, when you reach menopause, which we'll come into into it in a few minutes. We're like now in the middle, like between your ages of 10 to 45. You get this sort of ups and downs in your cycle. You get more energy, then you get low energy. And towards the end of the months, when your period is going, you feel bloated. You feel a bit swelling. You feel a bit like you've got cravings for carbs or for like sweet stuff or starchy stuff. When you reach the end of your sort of reproductive life, that's what it's called medically, so towards the perimenopause and menopause, you realize actually this is like exacerbated 10 times, 100 times, and it's not just 1 day or 2 days or a week, it's like over months and months. And you're
months.
like, what's happening to me? And like,
your hormones are
and a
changing.
constant, what we call PMS, premenstrual stress. Because the hormones are just dipping so much that your body just doesn't know what to do. But just very briefly, we want to talk to you about estrogen, because estrogen is actually not just one hormone. It's composed of 3 different hormones, but the one that's so you've got estrone, estradiol, and estriol. But estradiol, which is E2, shortened into E2, is the main female hormone that you make over the course of your reproductive life. It's the form of estrogen that flatlines completely during menopause, and it's the one that causes the most of the symptoms. So
your lack of it is the one that causes the problem.
It flatlines and dips, So estrogen is what's called the driver. It's the hormone that drives everything. It has so many metabolic functions, and it protects you from chronic disease. So it's not just a hormone for your womb, it's for so many other things. So it's got a mitochondrial function, which means mitochondria is the energy producing powerhouses of your cells. So this is what you need to feed to be able to have energy. Estrogen is instrumental in supporting healthy mitochondrial function. Also, in terms of inflammation, estrogen and progesterone both are key for managing inflammation. Having relatively high level of estrogen to progesterone as well as estrogen decline overall can increase systemic inflammation. So you feel like it can dampen your immunity system, it can lead to joint and muscle soreness, among other things. It could be like brain fog. So we mentioned this now because this is what's going to lead you when you start going into your perimenopause. It also manages blood sugar. It promotes insulin sensitivity, appetite. It regulates your hunger, and it helps the satiety hormone ghrelin, which you mentioned in the past, and we mention quite regularly when it comes to managing your eating habits. It regulates ghrelin and leptin, which are the two hormones linked with hunger and appetite. Moods, it affects how you feel good, because it affects your serotonin levels.
Your body temperature. Oh boy, that's the worst one.
We're laughing, aren't we? Yeah, it helps to keep your core temperature consistent. Then what else, Angela?
Oh, blood pressure. Boy, did I realize it in this past year. Blood pressure has been, if you're not careful while you're eating, it goes up and down, and you know about it. Your bone remodeling, estrogen helps increase calcium absorption and decreases how much calcium you lose in your urine, and regulates your key mechanism that is involved in maintaining bone turnover and density. So we have to be careful about that.
This is why often
we hear about osteoporosis and such. Also, it stimulates tissue growth and helps maintain
thickness of the womb lining. So basically that's what we meant when on your regular cycle. This is what helps to if there's an egg to attach, then it's quite nice and thick.
And also changes in the estrogen levels leads to so many symptoms that women who are listening or any men who are supporting them can hear. This is what's happening to you. When your levels are low, it leads to headaches, hot flashes, weight gain, poor sleep, night sweats. You're going crazy. You don't know what's going on with you. You're having brain fog and bloating, like you said before, and mood swings and anxiety. And it's not like something purposeful. You are going through it and you don't even know what it is. Well, this is what it is. You're getting into menopause.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because when you read this list of symptoms, you're like, yeah, I used to feel that sort of for maybe a few, as I said earlier, for a few days just before your cycle, your period comes, like, you know, sometimes up to a week, 5, 6, 7 days when you feel like really out of your body. And really, men, if you're listening, be kind to your women, your girls, your daughters, your sisters, your mothers. It's really it's not a nice place to be, because you really, yes, okay, there's always a level of control you can have on everything, and we will give tips, as you know, we always love to
especially nutritional tips
to help you to regulate this and to mitigate those impacts. There are things you can do, okay, to not be so dependent and affected by your hormones on a monthly basis, or to, you know,
at the end of the day,
but
our lifestyle does affect even our hormones.
However, there's only so much we can do to mitigate.
Yes.
There will always be a little bit of impact, and so be kind. But it could be that there's some men here listening and they're like, wow, we did not know this, let's research it, and go and speak to your wives, daughters, sisters, mothers, and say, look, let me help you, look, I've understood this, let's research it, let's have a look, let's read these books that we're going to recommend. And you'll be doing, mashallah, such a great great deed to help the women around you. There really should be no taboo attached to this. It's part of our normal functions.
Yeah.
And it's so important. And again, as we said earlier, the Prophet ﷺ and his wife, especially Aisha radiallahu anha, we have so many hadith from her regarding this. There was no taboo whatsoever. It's just to handle it in a delicate and kind and way, you know. That's the way to go forward. So just, Angela, tell me, let's disclose lots of stuff. Did you, so we now reached that point, 47, 45, 46, 52 now, nearly 50. No, you are 52.
Yes, I am.
You are 50. You're a little bit older than me. I'm going to be, inshallah, 52 in July. But I am already 52 a long time ago in my Islamic calendar.
Me too.
In our Islamic calendar. So let's see. So how did you go through? We talked about the early phases when you discovered you became a
I wasn't
woman.
paying attention, to be fair. I did not expect, I didn't know what to expect.
Was it because
but when I
you
started
didn't really know
getting
much,
hot
or?
flushes, I don't want to say I didn't know much. I just decided it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So I didn't make any effort to learn anything about it. That was just, I felt that's part of life. It's coming. When it happens, it happens. And of course, you see on TV, they have these things that they tell you, when they show on when women have these problems, they exaggerate everything. So I don't really pay mind. But what made me think this is what's happening to me was when I started getting overly hot, like all the time for no reason, and needing the fan on, and on times when other people were cold or didn't need the fan, then I realized, that's probably something's happening. And then my cycle started changing, because over the years my cycle was very reliable. And when it wasn't, I was confused. What's going on?
So for me, it was interesting because just a little side note, actually, women listening, ask your mothers if they remember when they went through the menopause, as in when the menopause, definition of the menopause, very important to do. The definition of menopause is exactly this: when you've not had a period for 12 months. Imagine you've not had periods for 11 months, and then you get a period, then you have to start the counting from scratch. It has to be 12 months and over. You can still have some sort of ghost periods later on, occasionally here or there. It's not necessarily like 18 months, 2 years later, like a last ditch attempt, I don't know. So be very careful if you do not want to become pregnant later in life. You have to really be over 12 months. So I had, when I was 47, I remember training, I was like, wow, I am sweating buckets. But it was like, not winter, I can't remember. It was just not a particular hot day. But I was starting to sweat like drenched as soon as I was doing a little bit of a warm-up. That was very unusual. I was not as energetic. I was really struggling with energy. And at night, I would wake up and I could wring my clothes. I was so wet. Really, really weird.
Wow.
My husband thought I was like breaking into a fever or something. I said, no, I don't have a fever. You could feel my skin was cool, but I was sweating bucket. But it took me, it's so funny. We hear it so much. Hot flashes here, menopause. And I could not connect it.
Yeah, until it happens to you.
And I'm like, after a while, I thought, hold on a minute. But what happened to me that was very scary is that I started having palpitations like mad.
No, I've never had that.
And it wasn't that my heart was racing. All of a sudden, you would put like, say, what do you call it, a Fitbit or something on my wrist, and you could see my heart rate shooting up.
No,
not at all. My heart rate was a bit high, but not abnormally high. Higher. Okay, it was always a bit high, but it would be that my heart would be pumping as if it struggled.
Wow.
Like the machine would be like, instead of pumping beep 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 beep, it would be like boom, boom, boom. Like really, you could feel the muscles. You could see my heart jumping in my chest.
Wow, that's scary.
And I could not sleep on my left side. And I love sleeping. Once you've done on your right side, you can turn on the left, and that would be my comfortable position. I could not, because it would press on my heart. So I had and I started developing shoulder problems because I was always on my right. My right leg as well started aching because I was not turning at night. And I had ECG. Yeah, I had ECG done, nothing. I had hormonal check, nothing. And again, doctors out there, I don't know if your markers are what's going on with the markers when you do tests, but I was going through the full-blown. But I know what's happening, and this is what these books are saying, is that when you go, hormones change so much, sometimes by the hour, that you could have a test at 11 a.m. in the morning. And again, Angela, you'll explain later how even eating affects, those things. You could then go and have the same test in the afternoon, you'd have different results. So all my markers were fine, my ECGs were fine, my hormonal checks were fine, my blood tests were fine. I was not lacking in anything particular. I was a little bit anemic, so they gave me a bit of iron, which helped with the energy. That was it. And I was so scared. I was like, oh Lord, help me, I'm gonna have a heart attack.
You, the athlete.
Seriously, it was so scary. And
Alhamdulillah.
I'm not reading.
Now you know.
Because for me, palpitations were your heart races as in speed, amount of beats per minute.
Yeah.
No, it was another time, and it was arithmetic as well, so it wasn't very regular. Sometimes you would like jump and then really
that
pump.
would be very scary.
It's very scary. So please, ladies out there, just if you are over that age and you have the other symptoms that were described and you have issues with your heart, have it checked with your doctor, definitely. Because it could be anything else, but have it checked. But if nothing comes up, now that I am reaching, like it's been 5 years now, and my period are virtually not happening, my heart is a lot calmer. I barely have these episodes. I sleep again comfortably on my left. I turn around at night. Energy-wise, I think everything is just getting a lot more balanced.
Well, and now that you also know more about it and you're managing your diet,
yes,
it's very important.
Yes.
You cannot take that diet out of this.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You're right. I feel a lot more stable. Mood-wise, I still get my poor husband and children sometimes this moment where I'm so irritated about little things, and I impatient, and I've always been an impatient person. But even more so, little things would just grate on me, like simple things. I feel this is happening less and less and less. Alhamdulillah. I can see the sort of transition is easing, and I'm going now over, you know, like you're going over a hill and it's getting harder. You go up Snowdon and it's like, oh my god, that second half.
I've never been there, so I wouldn't know
Angela.
this. I don't want to try it
Oh
either.
my god,
Forget
it's
it.
like that second half. Why did I decide I was going to go all the way to
Why
the
would
top?
I do that to myself?
Yes, exactly. And then you're at the top. You're like, and you're reaching the top. You're not there yet, but you can see the top, and it's still tough, but it's just easier. I don't know. It's weird. I can see that happening. So we're going to have another break. And what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about in the second part, Angela?
We will
Tell us
talk
a
about
little bit more.
progesterone, the other hormone that works with estrogen to keep us balanced. And we're also going to talk about what foods we're going to eat to help us as we reach menopause and beyond, how to help us produce these important hormones, the foods that help produce these hormones.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do.
Yes.
Inshallah.
Well, we have.
It's a very interesting time in women's lives.
Yes, to say the least.
Yeah. So alhamdulillah.
Well,
Okay.
we'll just
After this break.
inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
And we're back. Hi everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back.
So after talking about the symptoms and estrogen and a bit of progesterone, right?
All over this amazing female hormones that are great, but also wreak havoc in our bodies at different times of the month and different times of our lives.
I'm just gonna talk about a few hacks that, to be fair, I get them from Dr. Mindy Pelz's book, The Menopause Reset, and she recommends 5 things to ease women's symptoms, okay? So one is to stop eating all day. She definitely recommends some type of intermittent fasting. We're going to put the link into our videos for that
Definitely.
book, so you guys can,
So
if
it's
you want to.
Dr. Mindy Pelz, Pelz, and the book is called?
The Menopause Reset.
Yeah, fantastic
Okay,
book.
so in the hacks that she recommends, is one is to stop eating all day, and she goes on to
So
say,
what does she mean by stop eating all day?
she recommends not to eat 6 meals with including
because
snacks.
that's been the recommendation so far over the last sort of 20-30 years. Like, women need to snack, women need to eat regularly for sustained energy, etc., etc. But it's not necessarily.
No, Dr. Mindy definitely promotes intermittent fasting for women, menopausal women, for
'Cause it
women
gives
in
a break.
general.
It gives a break to your body.
For women in general,
don't
but you need to fast. It's a fundamental step in building a healthy lifestyle by including intermittent fasting. Okay. Number 2, vary what you're eating and what kind of foods are you eating. So while she does recommend fasting, right, and to be keto most of the time, she does advise certain times of the month before your period
change.
or while on your period to eat certain types of food that would be considered high in carbs, but they are wholesome carbs. So
What
she
goes
recommends
through
to get rid of to stop eating refined carbohydrates. So we'll talk about what's that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. The other thing she recommends is to build a strong microbiome, which means women need a strong gut microbiome to efficiently break down and use the little estrogen they're producing. We need a lot of things that affect there's a lot of things that affect our microbiome, like diet and lifestyle, but our microbiome is especially vulnerable to toxins. So she goes on to recommend eating organic foods, because the pesticides in our regular food are wreaking havoc with our gut. She's recommending drinking really good clean water. Now I'm gonna just put a little caveat in that she's an American doctor. She's talking from an American perspective. We're in the UK, and as far as I know, our water is good, but people have to do their own research. Okay. She also recommends to take mind of what personal care products we use. Okay. Because the chemicals in the popular beauty and cosmetics products like shampoos and body wash can affect our hormones, okay? And cleaning products, because a lot of the cleaning products also affect our hormones in a negative way. She also recommends sleeping well and
Yes.
minding our melatonin, which is the hormone that helps us go to sleep. So basically, those are the 5 hacks. Very briefly, we can go into more detail
Definitely.
later or another time. But basically, these are the hacks to help us mitigate our symptoms.
Yeah, yeah. So there was something that she says about how to eat throughout your cycle, isn't it? So imagine, again, we go back a little bit in that time of your life between 10 and 45, where for most women, an average woman, let's say, has a regular period. And whether she said that you can eat there are certain foods that will affect either the estrogen or the progesterone, isn't it?
She does. She has a program in her book that she outlines, which is called the Reset program. And she basically, it gives us a set of foods to have during different times of our cycle. So she breaks down the cycle in 28 days. And she recommends that between day 1 and day 11 of our cycle is to eat ketobiotic foods with any fast of your choice, because there's different types of fast. So if you guys want to read the book, then it will break it down for you. Do your own research for that. Then from day 12 to 14, she recommends we eat estrogen building foods with intermittent fasting, and those intermittent estrogen building foods are quickly, I'm just gonna list them. There's flax seeds, sesame seeds, soybeans, edamame, garlic, dried apricots, dates, prunes, peaches, berries, all kinds of cruciferous foods like broccoli and cauliflower. And yes, a lot of them are high in carbs, but she recommends those from day 12 to 14. And then from day 15 to 21, again, back on ketobiotic foods and a type of fasting. And between day 21 to 28, to increase their progesterone building foods with intermittent fasting. And those foods she recommends to build your progesterone are beans, potatoes, squashes, quinoa, tropical fruits, and citrus fruits, all delicious foods that I hardly have when I'm fasting.
And when I was doing it, what I really enjoyed about it is that you could be, it's a bit like when you fast and you do Ramadan, you've got your evening meals and you can relax. And I like the fact that sometimes when we decide to go in a particular type of eating, we think, that's it, I'm going to do this forever. So, the whole year, every day, single day for life. But to have that cycling is quite nice, because you allow yourself to have maybe some foods that you think are maybe too sweet or too starchy, but they actually, at that point, they're really good for you.
Yeah.
And they help you balance your hormones, they help you balance your symptoms, and also it's a bit of relaxing into your mind, like, okay, I don't have to think too much about what I'm eating. A bit too
I just want to also say that our hormones need healthy fats to be healthy hormones.
Yes.
And Dr. Mindy Pelz, and I've been influenced in my how I coach my clients. The list of healthy fats are the following. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna always say this. Olive oil is good for you, but please don't cook with it. Okay, just pour it over your food afterwards. Avocado oil is good. Coconut oil, grass-fed butter, just butter if you can't afford grass-fed butter. But
it's not
butter.
always easy to find, yeah.
Raw nuts and nut butters and ghee, yes, but make sure it's real ghee, not the one that says vegetable ghee. That's not ghee. Okay, and the things that I cannot not say the list of vegetable oils that are not good for you. When I say not good for you, literally go in your kitchen and without feeling guilty get rid of them. They're not really good food. They're not food. They're harming us, which is canola oil, vegetable oil, all types of partially hydrogenated oils, soybean oils, margarines, corn oil, safflower, sunflower. All of those are not good for you. They, when you use them for frying, they become toxic to you. So it doesn't matter if they says organic or whatever, do not have it, get rid of it, okay? Go back to ghee and olive oil and all the oil, the vegetable, the fats that you grew up with or your grandparents might have grown up with. Those are the fats that are good for us. And it will help our hormone building, including the foods that I've listed before. So we can't get diet out, when I say diet, I mean what we eat, out of this equation of how to feel healthy. Food affects us one way or the other.
So in that book, one of the questions was, well, okay, that's all very nice if you have a regular cycle. What if your cycle is irregular because either you go through perimenopause? Perimenopause means just the stage before the menopause. Menopause is the day when you've realized that's it, you've not had a period for 12 months. And she says basically just calculate, like try and remember the last time you had your first your period, when it was, and then calculate, and if not, just randomly choose a day when you said this is day 1, and you go through a cycle of 28 days.
Yeah.
You create your own cycle, and then say you have a period 3 months down the line. Okay, then you restart your clock. This is okay. This is my real first day. And you,
no, she goes in the book. She does tell you
really good.
How to, if you don't have a cycle or a regular cycle, how to figure it out.
Yeah,
it's very important so you can actually follow the 28 reset.
And there are loads of really good apps to do that. You can enter your symptoms. You can enter all sorts of things. But obviously, you can.
I didn't grow up with the idea of keeping track of my cycle. I learned that later on in life, and
it's useful.
It's very useful to know your cycle for. So all the ladies out there, if you're listening to us, advise the younger women in your life to keep track of their cycles. It's very important for even to go to the doctor, to know yourself.
Yeah, definitely, to know why you have certain things happening, and maybe obviously if you want to conceive, but also sometimes it's useful when I see my daughter, she's like cranky, nothing works, she's unhappy, just things are not right, she's just irritable, she irritates everyone, and then at some point we realize, we'll look at the calendar and realize,
it's really good to be aware, self-aware, but also to help them learn to be self-aware. I didn't have anyone telling me. I had to learn from outside sources, and it's good that it comes from your family.
And by the way, it doesn't mean that you allow your girls to be rude or disrespectful. It's just it's
for their own self-awareness to like what's happening to me.
Exactly. And because it is really if you don't go through it, you really don't realize it is actually quite unsettling to, like, you feel like you're another person. You're like, wow, why am I reacting like this? It's really not necessary, but you just can't help you, so you like, it just comes out of your mouth before. And so to understand that this is the time of the month, you're like, okay, and what it does, it also reduces that irritability, because it's like, oh that's what it is. Okay, then I don't need to worry about it, because the worry of why am I like this,
or am I feeling like this,
makes it really bad. So we're going to have another break now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
So I would like to just interject a little bit here with an interesting study that was made in the US. It's called SWAN, short for Study of Women's Health Across the Nation, and it began in 1994. It was one of the largest and most comprehensive studies of menopause in the United States. So according to the data published in a website called Endocrine Web, women of color tend to enter perimenopause and menopause earlier than their Caucasian peers. have longer transition periods and experience more intense symptoms and hot flashes. So that's quite interesting, because you might think we all, the same, I think, but even like through ethnicity and race and how there will be differences. So again, this is coming from a really interesting book by Dr. Stacy Sims called Next Level, and she had a first book called Roar. I really recommend, especially for those of you out there who are into marathons and half marathons, running, cycling, like doing a lot of sports several times a week, like the more athletic among you listeners. She's got lots of really interesting information. But what she explains, this Dr. Stacy Sims, who's from New Zealand, I think, that basically when she was a student, she realized that deliberately her tutors and lecturers and lab directors would remove the data from female mice or female study groups, saying, oh no, it's just too complicated with the hormones, we can never get a proper reading, we don't know what's what, we don't know what influences what, so we prefer just to go with men. So basically, all studies, really, we could say, until maybe recently, talking about all sorts of issues, symptoms, illnesses, reactions, whatever, it's mostly based on male subjects.
And that doesn't speak to the females.
No, because then they say...
And you think something's wrong with you.
Yeah, and then they say, this is what you should do. Say it's like for a sports performance, this is how much protein you need to eat, this is when you need to fuel, this is what happens to your body, this is when you recovered. All of these things that you hear or you read in articles and blogs and whatever, it's all pretty much exclusively based on a male body. It's not going to work for you, so, and I'll tell you why. Okay, but let's continue on this issue of the different in ethnicity. So even then, there's a smaller categories that you have to look at. So for instance, in the US, the average duration of menopause-related hot flashes and night sweats is the lowest for Japanese American women. Only 4.5 years, 4.8 years. And the most is 8.9 years. The most is black women. They can expect more than a decade of symptoms. The one just before that, Hispanic women. They were thinking, obviously, then also your weight plays a part. If you're overweight, if you're slim, as in if you're athletic, if you've got a lot of lean muscle mass, all of these things will have an extra impact on your symptoms. So there's a suggestion, for instance, when you hear Japanese women, Chinese women, they think, oh, they eat a lot of soybean, because it's known that it has quite a high level of estrogen and it helps regulate hormones, and that's why they have fewer night sweats and hot flashes. But again, the soy intake with Caucasian women is a bit mixed, the result sort of analysis of that, because they suggest that white women who eat more soy have more menopausal symptoms like hot flashes, but in reality it's a chicken and egg situation, because it's not really in a large part of the Western diet. So when they have symptoms, they are told to eat more soy, but if they don't have many symptoms, they're not reaching for more soy. So it's not really a true picture of whether it does help or not help. But more specifically now, I'd like to delve a little bit more into imagine you might not imagine, but out there we have listening to us, we'll have women who are doing a lot of sports. As I said, marathons, half marathons, a lot of running every day, a lot of CrossFit, lifting, heavy lifting, everything do. So as I said earlier, you can't really go by what the general advice is, because it would be male dominated. You have to tweak it a little bit for you. So Dr. Stacy Sims recommends slightly different things. So you have to, as she says, you have to fuel like a woman, and how you eat around your exercise sessions, the food that you have before you start and that you have after is really important and affects how you recover and how you adapt. So obviously she does not then end up recommending extensive intermittent fasting. You've got to tweak things around what you're doing. Even if you're fasting, then try and incorporate more of different types of food that would help for your recovery. Don't shy away from eating after your workout, even if you're into an intermittent fasting, or maybe displace, like switch the times when you're eating. That includes your training. So she says, especially menopausal women, you do not want to go into your workout under fuel. That's her recommendation. And there might be sounding like they're a bit contradictory, Dr. Mindy Pelz and Dr. Stacy Sims, but they have different audiences as well.
Yeah, Dr. Mindy is more
general
population of women.
Yeah. And also a lot of the people who follow her advice are generally because they're overweight, they want to lose weight, or they have inflammation, they have
different
conditions.
medical issues.
Yes, exactly.
But Dr. Sims is mostly speaking to athletic women.
Exactly. Who all in all do not necessarily have very serious medical issues. So she says that if you go into your workouts under fuel, it creates more stress and it undermines your exercise progress. She says you want to have the macronutrients you need on board to power you through your quality workout, so that you don't create more stress that's eating into your muscle stores. Because as you go into the perimenopause and menopausal years, the lack of estrogen will stop you creating more, as we said earlier, more muscle. So you don't want to add to that the fact that there's no good food at the time of your workout, or you've not eaten enough. So for instance, you don't have to have a complicated pre-workout snack. You can have, and you don't need to eat a lot. Certainly, again, that they would be on the same page for that one, especially what she recommends to eat just before your workout. Have something that contains protein and carbohydrates, but good, healthy carbohydrates like banana and peanut butter, some dried fruit, granola, a slice of whole grain toast, and nut butter. And that's it. You don't have to have a big meal. Obviously, those of you who are doing a lot of sports, you would know that's really not the right thing to do. Just before you go into an intense program. And after your workout, this is when your recovery window is actually shorter than it is for a man, and that's really crucial. So this is when your body is the most receptive to restoring your glycogen stores, which is what gives you the energy, and repair the muscles after the damage is done. Because obviously when you push your muscles, you create damage, you need to repair that. And that window is very, very short. It's within 30 minutes after your workout. Whereas men can go up to 3 hours without eating, and that would not affect their recovery. That is huge.
Wow.
That's 6 times longer.
And you've tested this on yourself?
Yeah, I've started doing it because I was not doing it, and I was low in energy. I was having injuries. And this book was recommended to me by a friend of mine who does a lot of rowing, and she used to do taekwondo with me. She's an older woman as well, but she has a younger daughter who is now in a junior Team GB for biathlon, mashallah. And so they're very, very in tune with that, herself and her daughter. When she gave me that book and the resources with doctors, I was like, yes, okay, let's try this. Let's see if that makes a difference. And it did make a difference, definitely. I think I was not having enough good quality carbs. Again, you don't need to have a huge amount. She's not saying have a huge bowl of rice and 3-5 slices of toast and everything. It's just a little boost before training and that protein afterwards. And sometimes all I have is just like a bowl of Greek yogurt with some frozen fruits.
And that helps.
Yeah, that's enough just to give you that little bit of energy that your body reduces the stress because there's food coming. That's all it is.
Right.
And I'd never have, or I would have like a very, very small protein shake. just enough to kind of calm that agitation inside the body, and I do feel a lot better for that, and hopefully I'll see even more muscle building happening. Yes, you're touching my bicep. Yeah, nice, huh? So what's important to understand is that after you've done your training, you've boosted your cortisol levels, and that's the stress hormone, which is important to build up your muscles, but it should not go on too long afterwards. It needs to be resettled, because the cortisol acts as a catabolic hormone. It eats up your muscles. So because we're now reaching menopause, we already have these issues with less estrogen and less muscle building hormones, and so we don't want to basically increase that and make it worse with having a super big workout and no fuel to compensate. So this is basically what, in a nutshell, what she's saying that we should be doing. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah. So basically, she obviously says, don't skip this step because you think that after exercise it will help you burn more fat. In actual fact, the opposite happens. Because of the stressed state and the high blood sugar, then you are more likely to store body fat and slow down metabolism. If you have a recovery snack or small meal, but recovery snack, within 30 minutes window, you can extend your ability to rapidly restore glycogen by up to 2 hours, and it's really important. Because then it prevents you from getting what she calls, or what the medical field calls, low energy availability. That was causing me my injury, my low energy, and my difficulty to recover. And crucially, we'll mention that now, Angela, it will support your gut microbiome health. Remember, the gut takes a beating during hard exercise, so providing good nutrition when you're done, there's good blood flow going into your muscles, back into your gut, and that helps your gut heal and maintain that good bacterial diversity, which in turn helps you to digest your food properly, which increases your metabolism, makes you feel better, has an impact on your brain. So there's really so much that will impact. So after the workout, to finish on, it's good to have a little bit of a protein snack. More than anything else. You don't really need carbs anymore because you don't need that energy. You just need something to help build your muscles, help to kickstart the muscle repair. So that's really all it is. So a piece of cheese, a bit of a bit of cheese, some olives, and whatever has a good fat and a bit of protein.
Avocado.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody likes avocado.
Yeah.
You could have it
some nuts
with some salt on top to make it more tasty. But what I'm gonna say, from what I'm getting from all of this, is that this information empowers women.
Yeah, exactly.
To not feel, when these things are happening to you, when menopause hits, that you're not a victim, that you can pull up your sleeves and do something to feel better and to mitigate the symptoms, and that you can actually feel like you're doing something. And then when you have a problem and you're doing something about it, you don't feel so helpless. So everybody, don't take our word for it, do some research.
Yeah, we're going to have a last little break, and then we'll finish off on some tips that are not necessarily nutritional related, but that can help mitigate all of these ups and downs in your body with your hormones as you grow up and age. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
And we're almost finished, so we have a few more things to wrap this episode. Hopefully it's been useful to our listeners. And what we're gonna remind and talk a little bit again is the microbiome. Make sure, so it's so important. It's so important to building estrogen that you need to keep your mind on it. What do? Well, you drink plenty of water when you're thirsty. Okay, I'm not telling you to drown yourself in water.
No, certainly not. Listen to your body.
Yeah, as you go along. Eat healthy foods, like different kinds of vegetables in different colors, right? Those are very important. Number 3, I think.
So for the guts, you can have live yogurt.
Live yogurt. So there's a lot of people out there. I don't know how bad the situation is in the UK with taking antibiotics, but if you are taking antibiotics, make sure you have live yogurt with it. Not the yogurt with different fruits in it and sugars. No, regular yogurt with that's full fat. Don't go for the no fat, because that doesn't taste good at all.
And it's not very healthy.
And you eat it.
Using for the body.
If you want to make it more flavorful, just add a bit of strawberries in it. Mush them up. There's some no sugar flavorings you can put a few drops in to make it flavorful. Basically, have live yogurt. Okay, have fermented foods, so kefir, kombucha. Have like the vegetables. I forget now what do they call fermented vegetables. There's pickled sauerkraut with your food.
Well, pickled is doesn't have as many bacteria as in properly fermented food, which you can do yourself. Actually, you can use just cabbage.
And even in the Asian cuisine, they have fermented.
Kimchi is fermented.
Kimchi is Korean.
The thing is, you see, one of the issues we have to mention, we will have a show on the gut and we will go through all of these details anyway, inshallah, in the near future. But when you buy things in the shelves in the UK specifically, you cannot find anything that's not been pasteurized.
Yeah, which is
so a lot of the
bad
bacteria have been
because
killed.
pasteurized kills. They use pasteurization to kill the bad bacteria, and in fact they also kill the good bacteria. So you're getting a product
so if you do it yourself,
that's
you
not
get something better.
what's going to help you. But if you can make your own pickled vegetables in the Asian cuisine, they also have their own pickled. They make it from mangoes. I'm forgetting now the word for this.
Chutney.
No, there's another one they use. Try and make it yourself. Trying to find out from your grandma how she made it, but do find out and make yourself, because what you're gonna make
always going to be better than
it's gonna be 100% better because you're doing it at home. It's not pasteurized, so all the good bacteria is still there. Whereas if you buy from the shop, plus they use probably a lot of vegetable oils.
And by the way,
don't
just in case you worry, there's not going to be any alcohol in it because there's no sugar in it.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing that we can do is about sleep, isn't it? Have good sleep.
Yeah, we have written, we've made a video and we've talked about sleep before, so it's up on our YouTube channel. But sleep is very important to producing estrogen, because you need to sleep so your body can recover and try building things again.
So remember our YouTube channel, Wellness with Angela and Safiya. You can find all of our past audios. Also, some of our selected audios are available now on Spotify and Stitcher as podcasts, for those of you who prefer that. And yes, there's definitely a long audio there on sleep if you want to go back on that. And we will, inshallah, go back on the gut much more in details in the near future.
There's a lot to talk about.
But it'd be nice to finish off the last few minutes talking about what's good about reaching menopause. And so we had kind of stopped at our different symptoms that led, so that's the perimenopause. But now, you said that's it, you've reached menopause. I'm probably nearing it, if things go as it continues to go, probably by the end of the year, inshallah, who knows, Allah knows only. But as I said, I feel a lot more calm because although yes, as we read and heard, the estrogen levels are lower, so I've got to be a bit careful with certain things, but there's no ups and downs. I definitely don't feel that sort of unsettling feeling of like things are you're like super happy, everything's well, and then a week, 2 weeks later it's like that's it's doomsday, everything is going wrong and you don't know what to do, and you've got this as well anxiety. We didn't talk about anxiety. I had doom feeling, like I thought I was getting depressed, like astaghfirullah, how can I feel like this, me in my life and in the country I live in, and what can I complain about, this is haram. I was really beating myself up thinking I'm doing something really wrong. How can I feel these sad feelings? I have no justification. This wasn't me.
It's your hormones.
Yeah. So So it's something that I find that, yes, it's great. There's another thing as well. You know, there's this saying in Islam that when you reach 40, I don't know, it might be more relating to men, that little saying, but like when you reach 40, you've reached like your adult, established, mature age. And I really feel that now.
Of course. Don't you feel more wise?
I felt more wise when I was 40, definitely. But now I feel like I am reaching that sort of wise, older auntie.
When people start calling you auntie, then you know.
No, they started calling me auntie when I was like 30, and they were like teenagers, 17. I was like, oh no, I really feel like it was really odd the first time it happened. But now I really do feel that, yes, people are coming to me for advice. It's quite weird to be in that position, because I used to always do that to older women. Now, you know, we've not talked about greying hair. You know, I remember my mom used to always dye her hair until a point where she completely stopped and I said, oh, what's this new thing? Like after a few weeks, she had like just very, very white hair. And she said, yes, and now I've reached a point when my hair is not dull and kind of in between colors, no color grey, what is it? Now it's like properly white, and white is a color. It's not a color technically, we know that, but like it has a light to it. And I know some women many women actually, who've gone through that, where you don't see them for a while, and all of a sudden the next time you see them, they're completely white. You're like, oh, it's as if overnight the hair turned. No, it was a gradual thing where they stopped dyeing the hair. And I feel I'm at that stage as well, when I'm like, there'll be a stage soon in a few years' time where I will embrace that new color.
But it's okay if you don't and you dye your hair.
Yeah,
guys.
of course.
It's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Nothing wrong with
what
it.
I mean by that is, no, of course not. and what I mean by that is that you start feeling less sensitive about these things. You feel, okay, now this is a new stage in my life. And to be fair, when you look at it, we're 50. The life expectancy for a woman is now over 80 average.
Well, as long as we're healthy.
85. Yeah, so look, this is since I was about 10 or something, beginning of my reproductive life, I would say 40 years ago. If I have another, inshallah, 40 years, that's like as much as I've already done. It's like double my life virtually. Mm-hmm. So you can't lead the rest of your life feeling sorry for yourself. Oh, that's it, you know, I'm worthless.
No, well, at this time of our life now, new roles open up. Now, like I'm a grandmother now,
exactly.
mashallah.
Yeah.
You get the good part of seeing children grow, but you don't have all the responsibility.
Yeah.
Not that you should spoil your grandkids, but you play a different role.
Yeah.
And I'm quite looking forward to that. And doing more for your community. Right? You don't have those responsibilities at home anymore, so you can be of value to other families who are raising their kids, to give them a heads up of what's coming, support roles. There's so many things we can do, inshallah.
Yes, there's the idea as well that you can start a new career.
You can travel.
Yeah.
Which is one of the best things about living in the UK. But coming from Canada, that is one of the number one things that I love, traveling. And as you get into menopause, and you don't have so many responsibilities, hopefully we can.
There's another thing that just came to my mind about traveling. You can, subhanallah, mashallah, you can go on Hajj and not worry that you might have to interrupt Hajj because of your period.
Very good point. I never even thought of that.
Yeah. Obviously, then you get to do your prayers every day. You get to fast Ramadan without
mashallah,
going
this Ramadan.
up and down. You know, there's a stage in Ramadan where just before your period, it's even worse because you're fasting, you're more tired, and on top of that, you've got your PMS kicking in. This is not happening anymore. You don't have so many days to catch up. You can do so many other sunnah days because you don't have your 10 days or 8 days to catch up.
Read the Quran the whole month.
Yeah. There's a lot of really a lot of positive. You just have to work with your changing body. There's other things happening which might affect you, maybe in your relationship with your husband, without going into details, intimately. So you have to work with that. You have to work with that to help you. But as we said, you know, there's so many things with you, simple things. You don't have to make anything complicated. Simple things, tweaks in your life that you can do to make this then change into a new period of your life, the smoothest, the most enjoyable, you know, and become one of those great, you know, inspiring women in the world. That would be really, really lovely to hear how you have dealt with this with these difficulties or changes, I guess. If you want to, you can go onto our YouTube channel, and under the video, when under the audio when it's on, just drop us a comment, or just email us here at the radio station, info@heritageradio.co.uk. That would be lovely to hear your comments and contributions, suggestions as well. We're always open for new ideas. So this concludes our show. I think we did a good roundup of all that, and hormones will always come back virtually in every show. I think we must
we've been talking about
hormones.
Insulin and cortisol, hormones,
Even
and now
when we talk about teenagers, obviously.
Yeah, and now estrogen and progesterone.
So we're going through. We still have so much to talk about.
Yeah,
so
we
inshallah, you will continue to hear from us quite a bit. Inshallah, we're looking forward to being back here next week from 12 to 2 every Wednesday, the Wellness Show. And remember, everything that we've advised here, and they're not really advice, it's more giving you information to research. Do not take anything from us directly and start making radical changes to your life. Research, educate yourself, read the books we recommended, and also do your own search on YouTube and Google, but also talk to your healthcare professional if you want to change anything, especially if you have an ongoing condition.
And please just drop us a line of topics you're interested in us talking about.
Inshallah. That would be really great. Okay, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.